Ellison here, technician by trade. My ship is the Wayfarer, if you can call this tired metal shell a ship. She's been battered and frayed beyond recognition. The Wayfarer and I have that in common, I suppose. Putting reality to rights is a tricky, thankless business. Lonely too. I do it anyway. I used to belong in your reality, but the Wayfarer and I don't belong anywhere now, apart from wherever our next job happens to be. Or so they would say. Realities. There are more of them than there are drops of water in your sea or points of distant light in your sky. The universes are all stacked up, like a big plate of pancakes that stretches into the sky and keeps going forever. Trouble is, sometimes, some of the syrup that belongs on one pancake drips down where it doesn't belong. That might not be the best explanation, but I'm trying. Maybe I'm just hungry. Anyway, when that happens, when the wrong syrup gets on the wrong pancake, they know about it, and they send a technician. Sometimes that technician is me. When a syrup situation gets particularly sticky, we call it a flaw. The beings that cause it are the flawed. I'm sure you've seen a flaw before, felt one, heard one. We're all designed to impose logic on illogical things. A disembodied laugh out of place, a strange color on the horizon, a leering shape in the shadows. We blink it away. We blink it away like it was never there. It was there though. Trust me. Our logical minds do as they should and impose sanity, even where none exists, and a technician comes in and removes the flaw. If the technician does clean work, you'll never know they were there. My latest job, well, it didn't end up being as clean as I would have liked. It started with a work order.
Reality 11678954BZ32M1. Flaw detected in TIE 778 by G32HMB99. Malignant flaw causing sanity subversion in sentient beings, temporal, situational and scenic disruptions and general disorder. Remove flaw and return to reality ZZZX999999B1. Standard order induction and patching. Deadline 22 real-time marks.
The order was accompanied by a light file, much denser than usual. I groaned. Dense files were bad news. Beings from realities with lots of repeating characters were bad news. I booted up the flaw map and the code sprang to life, resolving itself in a complex grid of glowing gears, delicate springs, and mechanisms of pure light. I prodded it gently with a gloved fingertip, exploring the diseased bits of code. I slumped back in my chair and pulled at my not quite clean hair, a habit of many years. Fuck, I muttered aloud, pulling a bit harder and twisting a strand of hair around my finger. Standard order induction and patching my foot. My voice sounded hoarse and small in the Wayfarer's metallic confines, and I realized that I hadn't heard the sound of myself speaking in weeks. Discomfort rose in my chest and I laughed to dispel it. The tinny, discordant sound that resulted only deepened my agitation, echoing hollow and dull in the empty ship. Seeming to seek the flask of its own will, my hand reached out, and I found myself taking a deep swig of my favorite brew. It's a whiskey so smooth and warm that you can't even imagine it in your reality, so just don't try. Suffice it to say that being an interdimensional traveler, which is generally dangerous, desolate, and bleak, does have a few advantages. I turned my attention back to the flaw map, frowned, and drank again, Something nasty from a cold realm had crept into a solid realm, one very much like yours. That much was clear. My finger drifted to the lightest of the trouble and the whirring, intricate code. A patch of grayed gears glowing in worn, angry black. "Show me," I murmured, clicking the record open. My screen showed a woman standing in an empty room. Her hair was long and gently red, pulled back in a messy bun. There wasn't any makeup on her pale skin, and she was busy stripping yellowed wallpaper patterned in garish green branches, interspersed with bright, bursting blossoms and twisting vine. The woman was sweating, and music burst from a little speaker at her feet, filling the room with rhythmic drums and a heavy, commonplace melody. She was working fast, satisfied with the hard work, the pleasure of ripping a particularly large piece of the ugly paper from the wall. Still, she found that something in the paper confounded her, drew her in. Light withdrew, and the green branches on the wall withered and browned. The music slowed, distorted, melted. The woman stepped back, entranced, gazing forward as a dismal wood opened before her. Dead leaves clung to gray, rough-barked trees, thick and entrancing, going on for miles into the gloomy distance. Drawn forward, the woman reached, running her smooth fingers over a gnarled branch. Her melting music turned to a racing cold breeze, skittering through the dark wood and agitating the trees. Catching sight of a shadowed form ahead in the gloom, the woman looked, squinting and taking another hesitant step into the wood.
"Come on,"
a soft voice, crooning, dripping with delicate poison.
"Come to me."
"Vivian," a new voice, male and warm. "The fuck are you doing?" The woman, Vivian, drew back. The wall was a wall again. The ugly wallpaper came back. The music came back. "I don't," Vivian murmured, ashamed and confused. "I don't know." A man was in the room now. Dark hair, tanned skin. He smiled. "You were like on the wall, sort of." "I don't know," he laughed, pulling her into a hug. "Adrian," Vivian whispered, sinking into him, resting her face on his chest. "I thought I saw something weird. I heard..." "Never mind," Adrian replied, running a calloused hand over her hair. "You've been working too hard. This new house is a big project, babe. We've got to pace ourselves." "Yeah," Vivian said uncertainly, shaking her head and pulling away. "Yeah, I guess you're right." I recoiled and closed the record, turning back to my flask to fortify myself and casting my eyes down. The quiet of the Wayfarer soothed me as I spooled the flaw map to the side, finding a fresh patch of disease. The voice of the flawed still sounded in my mind.
"Come on. Come to me."
Cool and soft, captivating. My eyes drifted, unbidden, to the portrait that hung over my desk. Time had coated it in honey tones and softened the curve of her lips, the wave of her hair. Her eyes were still the same, though, still playful and sharp, as though she were always already laughing at some private joke. I pulled off my thick leather glove and reached for her, tracing a gentle finger down the daguerreotype's glassy surface. It's not so funny now, is it? I didn't expect an answer. She hadn't answered me in over 100 years. I could hear the whiskey's warmth in my voice. That's probably a good thing, I mumbled, raising the flask to my lips again. I put my glove back on. Tonight isn't for us, I spoke, addressing the still cold portrait with reproach. You are dead, and I've got a work order. Tonight is for Vivian and Adrian. Let's see if they're still alive, I turned my eyes back to the flaw map and spared my chronometer a glance. I wouldn't expect you to know, but 22 real-time marks can go by awfully fast. I had already spent 2 on drunken bullshit and sentiment, when I should have been fully focused on my research. There was no way I had enough time to review the whole light file. I intended a shortcut, sort of glancing at the worst of the flaw and starting my troubleshoot with the most obvious potential fixes. Still, something in that voice.
Come on. Come to me.
Shut up, Elizabeth, I muttered, finding that my eyes were on the daguerreotype again, and not on my work. Fuck, I murmured, rising from my worn chair and sending its smooth, tattered wheels rolling angrily across the floor. This thing's gotta have some hidden facets. I approached my tomes on steady feet and ran my fingers along their leathern spines, stopping on the Atlas of All and pulling it from the shelf. Reality ZZZX 999999B1, I spoke. The volume's supple pages fell open beneath my fingers, glowing golden and clean. Ah, I mused, pulling my chair back to my desk with one hand and clasping the tome in the other. My eyes raced over the page with practiced ease, finding the facets of the beings that lived in reality ZZZX 999999B1, or Terrantier, as the Atlas diplomatically named it. Flexible and pervasive reality modification, known for emotive seep, I read aloud. Terrantier was a twisted place, with ranges of existence sinking and melding into and across one another, powered by a chaos and cold that would be far beyond your comprehension. Flaw that had contaminated Vivian and Adrian's reality was a cold, chaotic thing then, tempered in its native melding, striving always for otherness and power. In short, Terrantier was quite the rotten pancake, and its beings were made of some very dirty syrup. I sighed. I clicked the flaw map and pulled up a diseased bit of the record. I settled into my chair and watched, resigned. Vivian and Adrian laid in bed, an air mattress on the floor, in an empty room. My screen showed stripped walls that loomed in bare, sickly decay, and high ceilings stretching away into near-perfect darkness. Open suitcases and strewn clothes were scattered along the floor, but the sheets were white, and the blanket was fresh and crisp in spite of the general disarray. It was silent, until it wasn't. A baby's call cut the air. I tilted my head in confusion. Vivian rose, whilst Adrian continued to snore deeply. Indifferent, unaware. Vivian stood, graceful and serene, her long white legs steady and firm. Her eyes were tired but soft, and her tread determined as she walked from the room, her bare feet cold against the rough wood floor. She crossed the hall, cooing and soothing, as mothers do, eager to reach her baby. Light from a weak, slender crescent moon illuminated a spindly cradle beneath a bare window, with darkness roiling and soaking in its depths. Vivian paused, mid-step, silent. "What?" she whispered, straightening her back and looking into the shadows. The pool of black in the cradle grew and undulated with alluring grace, seeming to beckon Vivian. She hesitated, gazing, trapped between the primacy of a mother's need to protect her young and a human's instinctive fear of darkness and decay.
Come to me.
A whisper.
Give in. Come.
"Vivi!" Adrian stumbled into the room, taking his wife in his arms. "What are you doing?" His voice was tired, muddled. The baby," Vivian breathed, seeking weakly to break away from Adrian's grasp and reaching for the cradle, her fingers delicate and pale. "Huh?" Adrian spoke, seeming to awaken fully. "What baby? What are you talking about, Viv?" He allowed her to leave his arms and to reach, in hypnotic half-fear, for the cradle beneath the window. Long gone. Never real. "The baby was crying," Vivian whispered. "You were dreaming," Adrian decided, surveying his wife, calculation in his dark eyes. "A nightmare. It's a new town, a new house. You were sleepwalking, dreaming. It happens." "Okay." Vivian's voice shook. "It's different here," Adrian soothed, pulling his wife from the empty room. "The country is so much quieter than the city, and the house is so old. You've been working too hard. We'll get you in to see a doctor tomorrow. Maybe you need sleeping pills." Vivian shook her head, her loose hair flowing, red and soft. "I don't need a doctor, babe. Let's just get back to bed." "All right," Adrian allowed, releasing his grip on her hand and dropping onto the air mattress. "Let's just get some sleep." "Okay," Vivian whispered. I released the record and allowed the image to eviscerate. The Wayfarer did not sound like herself. The tomes along the shelves seemed to whisper of their own accord, and the elixirs seemed to bubble and turn in their vessels with a life all their own. I glanced at the onyx glasses hanging on the wall, and they shuddered and shivered, threatening to fume and crack. "That'll be quite enough of that," I spoke, lifting my flask to my lips and drinking deeply. It was time to start the extraction, whether I wanted to or not. I stood, still steady, resting my hand on the back of my chair, and considered the onyx glasses, wondering which rating would contain the fluid from Tarantine. Black and sleek, the glasses gazed back, reflecting my wild hair, my pale skin, my tired eyes.
Come to me.
Inviting and biting.
Give in. Come.
I felt a gentle hand on my back. Cool, soft fingers traveling slowly and lightly against my bare skin. It tickled in just the right way, and I felt my eyes close.
Give in. Come.
Elizabeth's breath, hot and eager, quick and whispered. A stolen moment. Meet me in the willow grove, if you can. I can, I breathed. Elizabeth's fingers in mine, warm and rushed. I will. I found myself horizontal when I opened my eyes again, cradled by the Wayfarer's chill metallic floor. "Fuck," I muttered. "A motive seep indeed." I rolled onto my back, feeling the peculiar ache of having slept all wrong, too long. My knees met the Wayfarer's iron belly and my gloved palms pressed against her hollow skin. I stood, folding upwards with slow care. glance at my chronometer told me that 5 more real-time marks had passed. Fuck. The onyx glasses had all fallen from their hooks and laid shattered on the floor, all broken in dark disarray. All but one. Slickster R5, I read, taking the smooth glass in hand and surveying the etching along its surface with pleasure. I guess you're rated to hold a Terrantier, huh? I mused, carrying the precious glass back to my desk. I should have made myself a coffee. I took a sip of whiskey instead. It warmed me, lent my mouth a sense of unearned clean. I set the Slickster R5 on my desk and pulled on my hair absently. Okay, I muttered, ignoring the thrill of ghostly fingers on my back. Okay, I repeated, rolling my neck, pretending that the tomes weren't oozing, eerie and perfumed, and the Wayfarer wasn't humming, seductive and chill. I cracked my fingers, emboldened by the satisfying snap, and called up the flaw map. I went to work, pulling fragments of the flawed's code and lacing them together, pulling enough of her essence to entrap her, and elaborating on her facets to ensure that my parameters would hold. I finalized my codex and started the upload to the onyx glass, unceremoniously emptying a vessel of viscous, potent elixir onto the glass's surface to speed the process. A white, glowing outline began to take shape, twirling with slow determination along the glass's surface, feminine and curved to perfection. She turned her little face towards mine, features bent in softened pretense.
Help me.
The barest of whispers. I do not want to go back.
It is dark there. It is so cold.
I sighed. There was something alluring in her tone. I knew once the being spoke that it was a she, definitively. At least she was, for now. I imagined back in Terrantier she would not be able to divine herself quite as well. Let me give you some space, I suggested, lifting the glass reverently from my desk and placing it away on the ground. There is nothing to fear. I will not go, she surged, rising to match my height and speaking, urgent and soft at once. Her lips were pearlescent white, slowly coming into deeper focus as the glass pulled her in and the upload continued to process. Her eyes were diamonds, deep and bright. Her voice was power, pure and unbridled, gleaned from a reality that was not her own. She was just the right kind of wrong. For me. Elizabeth remained over my desk, perfect and still, and I approached her, desire coursing deep. The daguerreotype enlivened, its honeyed, fossilized aspects seeming to slowly soften.
Give in.
The creature spoke, borrowing Elizabeth's long-dead voice.
Come to me.
I approached the portrait, the years of my long-dead love bearing down upon me with merciless heaviness, each step weighted by long marks of desolation and the intimate knowledge of my long solitary misery. Loving fingers roamed, whispers tickled, tinged with sweet pain. My hypnosis was deep, my desire bereft. I suppose that was what pulled me back. In the end, once you've known sorrow for too long, pleasure feels suspect. You, I insisted, pulling my head off the desk and wiping the drool from my mouth, are nothing more than rotten fucking syrup. The apparition lingering over Slickster R5 looked confused and I smiled. I drained my flask and took a precious brown bottle from my shelf to fill it again. I pulled up the flaw map and prodded it to and fro, searching for another diseased record amongst the whirring gears of light and glow. I found a piece, black and decayed, and wondered what it meant. Let's see another side of you, I suggested, turning to the flawed. Her pale form quivered. I clicked on the record with the tip of my finger and it sprang to life, filling the Wayfarer with images and light from another life. Vivian and Adrian had a dog, a German Shepherd. Angus, Adrian called, looking into the dark, sprawling yard in confusion. He returned to his room, joining Vivian in bed. Don't know where that dog is, he spoke, bold and annoyed. Finished. Vivian turned, worried and pale. We can't just leave him out there. She let her words drop, quiet and submissive. There's been so much lately. Weird things happening. Adrian was silent. Babe? Vivian questioned, turning and resting a gentle hand on his shoulder. Can't I get any fucking sleep around here? Adrian snarled, turning and pushing Vivian's hand away, crushing her soft fingers beneath his own. You and that dog have both been acting fucking crazy ever since we moved here. And for what? What did I do to deserve this? All I do is bust my ass to take care of you, to buy us this place. Is it not enough? Huh? Vivian shrank away, falling off of the bed and slinking towards the wall, fear in her eyes. I'm sorry. Her voice was almost nothing. Barely there. What did you say? Adrian roared. You dumb bitch, speak the fuck up. I didn't say anything, Vivian decided, standing. I'll just sleep in the living room, in case Angus comes back. Fine, Adrian shouted, flinching in satisfaction as the bedroom door slammed. Fine, he muttered, glancing at the time on his phone and shaking his head as he buried it in his pillow. Alarm in 4 hours. He frowned and rolled over, thinking of work the next day and little else. Meanwhile, Vivian sought the quiet of the living room with uncertain steps. She knew there were boxes with extra pillows and blankets stacked somewhere in the darkness, and she needed to find them. She paused in the doorway, looking into the cavernous blackness ahead. I could feel her breath, growing rapid and fluttering in time with her heart as her wide eyes sought to discern familiar shapes through the gloom. It is, perhaps, one of the most fundamental drives in all beings, the desire to make sense of shape and color, to assign it names and to quantify it, to pattern it in expected, reassuring ways. I suppose that's why it took Vivian such a very long time to see what I could see, creeping, furtive and sly, along the ceiling. I've seen many, frozen, when fear takes them. I wanted Vivian to be different, but the record was what it was. An incontrovertible recording of a reality that was, that had already been. Vivian did not move when she saw it, the black form skittering along the ceiling with its claws dug into its soft plaster and gray glowing eyes watching her with hunger. Angus, she whispered, taking a step back. The animal, no longer himself, dropped to the floor with uncanny energy, landing and looking upon her with hunger. It's time. The dog spoke as human, its muzzle contorting with chaos and cold. Vivian swooned, her eyes vacant and smooth, an unnatural smile touching her face. The dog spoke again, drawing nearer to its prey, with ropes of hungry saliva seeping from its contorted muzzle.
It's time to come, to give in.
Come back alive.
Vivian shook her head and screamed at last, her potent calls echoing against the walls and rousing Adrian. The man crawled from bed and ran down the stairs, jumping them 2 and 3 at a time. He found Vivian with Angus, himself again, wagging his tail and looking between his humans in confusion. Vivian, Adrian spoke, clenching his fists. What the actual fuck? I don't, she stammered, backing into the wall and clutching her head. I don't know. Angus was talking and then... Angus was talking? Adrian repeated, approaching her, shirtless, his muscles flexing in the moonlight. What did I say about all this crazy shit, huh? I offered to take you to the doctor, but you wouldn't fucking listen. You didn't need it, right? I'm sorry, Vivian pleaded. I'm sorry, okay? I'll go to the doctor. I'll do whatever you want. Just what? Adrian snarled. Just calm down, okay? You're being such a dick. I'm just scared, okay? Well, Adrian spoke, taking a slow step towards his wife. I'm a dick. Is that right? That's not what I meant. Vivian wrapped her arms around herself, shuddering and shaking her head. I'm sorry, I'm just... Adrian didn't wait to hear just what Vivian was. He was strong from years of labor, and he didn't know what his hands could do against blood and flesh. He struck her once, and she flew along the wall, her red head dashed against the stone hearth. Blood bloomed where her skull met the stone, and began to pool around her slack mouth and empty eyes. Babe? Adrian whimpered, kneeling at her side. I slammed the record shut, my features contorted in rage, and pulled up my comm. Standard order induction and patching, I typed. Request to modify. And I waited and drank whiskey. And the flawed wailed and railed, pulling at the parameters on the onyx glass, struggling desperately to escape. Elizabeth watched, her sly eyes still amused by some secret joke. Eventually they answered. Rationale for modification? I typed back. Innocent sentient, deceased due to flaw. And I waited.
Modification denied. Execute work order as written, Technician XX9992 Ellison.
Well, that was that. I wrote the patch, and I guided the Wayfarer to reality ZZZX999999B1 Tarentier. When I released the flawed in her home world, she sobbed and clung. Sorry, I murmured, pulling her heavy fingers from my hips and smiling apologetically. If my paltry heart would do you any good, you could have it, but I paused, looking out at the desolate rolling skies and cold upward seas, glistening with hungry life that clung to the chaos of Tarentier. But, I continued, I have seen your appetite, and I know I could not sate you. A lie, maybe, but the Wayfarer was waiting, and my comm was bright with another work order.